Welcome back to Greater Than Ghosts. I am your host, Donya, and I'm here with my co host, Emily.
Emily,
And today we are going to talk about all the things Amelia Earhart taught me about sex. So, apparently, you can communicate with anyone in the spirit world. And just like we say in introductions and readings, we don't have any control over who comes through or what they come through with. And so today I'm going to share an experience where I connected with Amelia Earhart and she literally taught me about sex. Are you ready, Emily?
I'm ready. I can't wait to hear
Okay.
this.
So yeah, it was really funny how this happened. So I get visits from spirit all the time. My house is like Grand Central Station. Some of those people are family members. Some of those people are famous people that we would all recognize and know. Sometimes they come through with messages for people I know specifically. A lot of times they're coming and they're sharing information. They're teaching me. And at first, when I first started practicing mediumship publicly, this would happen randomly. And I didn't know why this would happen or when. But I was working with my friend Liz on my website, actually. And we were talking about like a bucket list of who would I love to meet in spirit. Um, and so at that point, I had met a couple of people. I met Prince. I met a lot of musicians, but I had never met, people outside of that. And I said, I would love to meet Amelia Earhart. But at the time, this was the very beginning of my mediumship journey. I had no idea like how I could intentionally connect with her. And so um, my friend was like, well, what would you do if you wanted to intentionally connect with her? And I was like, well, I might look at her pictures. I would try to hear her voice, like see any authentic images. And so she pulled them up on the screen. She's like, bam, try it. And I did. And she came through. And so when she came through, it was wild. I had no idea where we were going with that visit, but she she took me to some wild places. And
I
so
have
I'm going to
so
share
many
them with you.
questions. I can't wait to hear this story.
Um, so I don't even know. Gosh, it's hard to even know where to start with this story because the information that she told me was wild. But it all started with her talking about just her when she first came through. So when she first came through, I started to get the sense that she was super hot. Like, you know how when you first connect in mediumship, you start to feel things clairsentiently? And so, for
Mhm.
folks who watched our or listened to our other episodes, you know that that means you're feeling in your body. You're connecting to this person through how they feel. And I just got the sense that she is smoking hot. And it felt like, I'm like, gosh, like, Ms Earhart, like, I'm like, whew, flustered. I'm like, what is happening? And then she started to show me what made her so attractive is she had this confidence about her. She had this confident, the kind of confidence that would attract a straight woman. And that's how she walks through the world. And so my friend starts asking all these nosy questions, and I'm really glad she did. And so she's like, can you ask her about her love life? And so Miss Earhart told me she's definitely queer. And I was like, she's a player. I was like, Miss Earhart, she's a player and she's poly. And so she told this and she starts showing me imagery. She starts showing me memories, connections. I saw her with two women and she was the boss in that situation. My friend asked, and she did identify as a woman, and Miss Earhart said she's just a woman who loved women. And her I'll be honest, she showed me everything, okay? And
Oh my
also,
God.
she said it was never her intention to mask who she was. Other people wanted her to mask who she was. And so she was very open and free with me. She had masculine undergarments and was very in control of these polyamorous situations. But they were all like fun and exploratory. Her work was more important. That was her passion, that was her love. And so, but she also had this fun. And so, anyhow, as she's showing me herself in these masculine undergarments, she starts to talk to me about femininity. And she starts to explain this delusion that we have now that feminine means dainty and feminine means fragile or weak or helpless or none of that is what it means to be feminine. She started to teach me about the difference between um, how we describe that now and what divine feminine energy really is about. And so she said that we confuse um, masculine and feminine. And she said femininity is power. And she said masculinity may be force, but femininity is power. And so she was saying they're not the same. Force and power are not the same. Um, and in that, she said it's a distortion. And so she said masculinity has to use force because it does not have the power that truly belongs to divine feminine. And I was like, oh my God, Ms Earhart, like, what? And so she started to share with me the connection between that divine feminine power and our sexual pleasure as women and our sexual authenticity as women. And so she started to talk about this space being the core of authenticity, and how the most authenticity should be there. And so it went on, Emily. It went on a lot.
I have so many questions, but I'm sure I'm gonna let you tell your story and then I'm gonna
Go
ask.
for it. Go for it.
I don't, so was that, I think you probably should tell the rest of your story, but like, was that her main point was bringing her sexuality to light? Or was she, because really, I just want to know where her body is and her plane is. Like, where did you crash? That's what I need to know. The history in me, the history person in me, I'm like, I need to know that piece of it. But it looks like that's so unimportant to her. Like, she's just like, whatever, that doesn't matter. This is what's important.
In this visit from her, she didn't mention anything about that. And while she talked a lot about sex, she even showed some tools and toys that she
Oh,
used. I'm just gonna say.
from back then?
Yes.
Oh,
None of it had to do with that though. And when she was talking about this, she was talking about its connection to authenticity. And that was really meaningful today, to me. Sorry. That
mm.
was really meaningful to me. And so she was talking about, my friend started asking, like, you know, how did she handle all the things that she went through? And it really was that authenticity in her safe space in her home, that gave her like the power to continue. So my friend actually asked her if she had a piece of advice for youth, what would it be? And I'm just going to read it to you because I do not want to misremember Miss Amelia Earhart's words. And she said, don't be in such a hurry to define who you are. You have your whole life to be boxed in by the world. You live in a time where you can explore who you are. So explore who you are. Don't define who you are because then you'll feel obligated to live up to that definition when you define who you are so very young. You already tell yourself to make choices based on what you've chosen at such a young age, and you don't have to choose and define what box you're going to be in. You never have to be in a box. She said, you never have to define. She said, what are those definitions for? Are they for others? They're not for you because you are who you are. And what's right for you is what's right for you in each moment. She said, it's what's right for you in this moment may not be what's right for you in the next moment, and what's right for you in this present moment. You don't need all these definitions. I mean, she says, I understand you want to be seen and you want to be heard and you want to be understood, but in doing so, you can also make yourself imprisoned. So just be free of other people's definitions for you and live your present moment in the present.
Wow. That's powerful.
Mic drop, Miss Earhart.
For real. That's
Um,
really crazy.
yeah.
And that she brought all that, and all you had to do was ask.
All I had to do was ask. She talked some more about, like, she talked a lot about what it means to walk in divine feminine power.
Mhm.
And she actually talked about being yourself in the bedroom and why that needs to be talked about. And she was saying, because lying to yourself is blasphemous. Um, she said she never lied to herself. That's the purpose of her showing us, like in that moment, in that reading. She's like, that's the purpose of me showing how she showed me these very intimate, private moments. And that's the purpose of her wanting it to be shared with others, is that I'm going to tell you exactly her words with this part too. She said, this is blasphemous, it's sacrilegious, it's the opposite of holy. Lying to yourself is the most unholy thing you can do. It is the most evil you can do. It's the most harm you can do in this world, is lying to yourself about who you are in your own home. And she said, you can leave other people to their delusions if you must, but live your truth with whomever you desire. And she smiled and she was like, however many you desire. I was like, yes, yes, Miss Amelia, yes. Yeah.
So here's what I'm picking up. Here's a thought that I'm having right now is I think of Amelia Earhart, I think of entrepreneur, I think of pilot, I think of, this historical disappearance. You think of the history that the pieces that she contributed to history. I've never wondered about her sexual life. I've never wondered about anybody in history's sexual life. Like it's never crossed my mind. And for her to come through and present that information to you, I think if this was something that was concocted or made up, that's what you're going to hear somebody say is, well, let me tell you where her plane crashed. Let me tell you, about her co-pilot. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you that, history wise. Never in 1,000 years would I thought she would have brought in what she brought into you. Like
Neither
that's
do we.
crazy. That's
You know what's
crazy.
really
But
crazy,
it
Emily?
makes sense.
It does. What's really crazy is what you just said. That's the next thing that happened in the reading. That's the next thing that happened in the reading. My friend started talking about how surprising it is that this is the information Miss Earhart would share. She said almost exactly what you just said. That's the
Right.
very next thing that happened in the reading. And I'm going to tell you what Miss Earhart said.
Tell
She
me.
said, why is it surprising that half of the humans on this earth would have sexual desire? Why is it surprising that half of the humans on this earth would be powerful? Why is it surprising that half of the humans on this earth uh, desire, pleasure, would want things for themselves? Why should half of the earth get, you get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's what she said. She's like, you
Oh,
get what
okay.
I'm saying, dear? Yeah. And she's like, she said it's surprising, but it shouldn't. And she talked to me about how we only see the part that the world would let you see. And then do you know what she showed me, Emily?
What?
Her prenup.
Okay,
She
tell me about
showed
that.
me her prenuptial
Okay, so first
agreement.
of all, question number one, why does she have a prenuptial? She wasn't married.
She did marry.
Did she marry?
She married this man.
I know about rocks in space. I don't know about history. So,
That's okay. She did marry. She married this man. And it's been said that it's a marriage of convenience. And it was. And we have evidence of that in her prenuptial agreement. Now, I should have said this at the beginning of this. I'm not a historian. I literally have never read a history book about her. I didn't watch a documentary about her. I literally know what she showed me and bits and pieces. This is not an episode to teach the history of her. So, historians, if we get a date wrong or something, don't come for us. But like she showed us this prenuptial agreement, and you honestly have to see it to believe it. And so it's very, very short, very short. And so it's written to GPP. George Putnam was his name. And so she refers to him as GPP and she's AE. And so she says, um, I'm trying to get a date for you. Oh, doesn't say it. Dear GPP, there are some things which should be writ before we are married. Things we have talked over before, most of them. You must know again my reluctance to marry, my feeling that I shatter thereby chances in work, which means most to me. I just stopped right there and screamed when I first read that sentence, Emily, because I thought of every woman who has, worried that marriage means giving up her dreams and how often it has meant women giving up their dreams. Anyway,
I'm I'm trying to I've Googled the prenup because I want to look at it while you read.
yeah, you can
So keep
see the
going.
actual original document. Um, we'll put an image of it on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
So she goes on to say, I feel the move just now as foolish as anything I could do. I know there may be compensations, but have no heart to look ahead. On our life together, I want you to understand I shall not hold you to any medieval code of faithfulness to me, nor shall I consider myself bound to you similarly. If we can,
Dang.
I know. She's like, if we can be honest, I think the difficulties which arise may best be avoided should you or I become interested deeply or in passing in anyone else. I get it, girl. Get it, Miss
Oh my
Amelia. Okay,
God.
all right. So she says, please let us not interfere with the other's work or play. Mm. Nor let the world see our private joys or disagreements. In this connection, I may have to keep some place where I can go to be by myself now and then. For I cannot guarantee to endure at all times the confinement of even an attractive cage. This is like, I don't know a wife who doesn't wish that she had some place where she can go to be by herself now and then.
1931, for her to talk like this in 1931, that's so
1931.
rare. You would not see a woman speak like this and
Right?
demand these things. Yeah.
Right? So she says, I must exact a cruel promise, and that is if you will let me go in a year if we find no happiness together. I will try to do my best in every way and give you that part of me you know and seem to want.
Dang. So it sounds like he wanted the marriage for his. I wonder too, though, with my nosy self, was he homosexual as well? And this was just like, let's just get married for the look of it.
Honestly, I didn't see that. I didn't see that about him. That
No.
being said, he was there, but not she wasn't talking about him, so I can't confirm
Yeah.
or deny any of
Hmm.
that. But I didn't completely see that.
Hmm.
So yeah, she is such a badass. And so the last piece of advice my friend asked for was what advice would she give to someone who's trying to learn who they really are? Because so much of this message was about being who you really are, and that's starting with yourself in the mirror and who you really
Mhm.
are, what you really desire. And so here's what Ms Earhart had to say. She said, remember, it's all about the honesty and vulnerability it takes to live who you are and to find your true pleasure and to live your pleasure and experience pleasure. It takes honesty and vulnerability, and that's where the magic happens in that honesty and vulnerable place. And she said, and somehow these things go together. If you're lying to yourself in bed, you can't expect magic to happen outside of it. There's a connection between this part of yourself that is so vulnerable, and it shouldn't be tainted with lies or withholding or pressure. She said, this is the seat of your soul. And it's enacted in ways we don't fully understand. And when you think about it, when she said it's the seat of your soul, if you think about where your genitals are, it's in your sacral chakra, right? Like it's your sacral chakra, the core of who you are. And
Mhm.
so she said you can have whatever you want if you have the courage to experience it. So Miss
Wow.
Earhart,
Has she
blowing
been
my
back
mind.
since? Has she been back since?
She has like popped in here and there, but I've not had a big long visit with her like that.
That also makes me think of like when we have mediumship readings, when we do mediumship readings, people are going to tell you what's important to them and not what's important to you. Not what, like, if my grandfather comes through and I know him to be, I don't know, he was a scientist somewhere, and that's what I think of when I think of him. He could have cared less about that, and he wants to tell me about this other important thing. This was more important, and that's kind of what that reminds me of. She wanted to tell you about this important thing, not planes, who cares? Like, okay, whatever. Like, this is what I took out of this life, and this is what I want to share with the next generation.
Yeah. She
That's
even
really
talked about sitting in the power. She
really.
talked about how being honest with yourself when you look in the mirror, even
Mm,
if everyone else doesn't need to know, when you look in the mirror, you know you're honest with yourself. She's like, that's where your power builds from being authentic. And so when she walked into the world, she was in control. That's that divine feminine power. She said, why do you need to get upset or worried when you know that you're in power, when you know that you're in control? It's like, oh my God, she's attacking me. Um, and so she talked about sitting in the power, also like she talked about it as more of a walking and existing in your power and building your power by being authentic. And I was like, tell it, Ms. Earhart. Because, we share a lot of strategies about mediumship, and there's all kinds of tools and techniques and tricks and tips, and all those things are great, but none of them matter more than just being your authentic self.
mhm.
Um, and so she said she built her power, and so when she'd build that in her home, in her safe space, and then she'd just walk as if those barriers weren't there.
Wow.
It's like, wow,
That's amazing. And she did so
no
many
way.
great things with her life that would, echo what she's saying.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is
She's a
really cool.
badass. Yeah.
And that really kind of leads to the discussion of, being authentic with yourself when you're doing spiritual work as well. Speaking your truth, honoring your truth, walking in the power of your truth that you are able to be a medium and work with spirit or be a psychic and assist people, energetically. That kind of lends to that idea of having your own power. So what I'm hearing that she's saying is basically honor your truth, honor your power, and don't be afraid to speak up and let people know who you really are. And I feel like that was really hard for me when I decided to do this line of work and really focus on it and really spend time practicing and getting better. And the idea of calling myself a medium was really, really hard for me to like say that sentence the first time. Like, no, I'm not,
Mhm.
that's ridiculous. But I think it's hard for a lot of people as well to, I don't want to call it coming out of the closet, but it kind of is in a sense. It's just in a spiritual way, because I know personally I have people in my world now and in the past that would this is a cult. This is,
Yeah.
voodoo. This is devil work. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. When I see it as the complete opposite. I'm doing this
Right.
to help people. I'm doing this to relieve some of this grief that people are feeling. And maybe answer some questions that they have. And I feel like, Amelia Earhart was saying along that line. I think hers was a little more powerful than the way I'm saying it, but it's the same message. It's, speak your truth, walk your truth. Um, but I think a lot comes with that too, Donya. I think when you do that and you make that step and you say, okay, I'm going to make a website and I'm going to launch it, and everyone on the planet is able to go on this website and see what I do, you have to be okay with the critics as well. And you have to be okay losing some people in your life. I know I lost some people in my life because it's not wasn't the right quote unquote thing to do. Um, and I think that has to be, you have to get in a mental place where you're okay with that. You're okay. You're maybe not okay with it, but you can accept, you know what? Aunt Susie's not going to like this, but it is what it is. But I have to
Yeah.
do what's honest in my heart, what's good. I have to be who I am in
Yeah.
a sense. And hiding that is hard. Hiding that and keeping that quiet is really, really tough. I know when
You
I
know, when you,
decided,
I think Ms. Earhart kind of scaffolds a process for that. Like when you go back and think of some of the advice she gave, she started with first be truthful with yourself in the mirror.
Mhm,
And I had, it is hard. I'm the daughter of a Pentecostal pastor who now is a medium talking to dead people in the spirit world, which he knew all about. But yeah, it's can be a lot thinking of like what are people going to think, what relationships might change, on how that will impact you. And some of it's caring what people think, but also it's caring about relationships and, wanting to maintain these connections that you have and then not knowing what life will be like without those connections. And then, of
right.
course, the fear and anxiety where you over exaggerate, what will happen. Oh
Hmm.
my God, if I'm authentic and honest about this part of myself, no one will love me anymore. So we do make those dramatic jumps. But she sort of gave a step. Start with yourself in the mirror. Start in your own home. Create a space in your own home, in your own bedroom where you are your most authentic self. And then from there, she also said, you explore who you are. You don't have to box yourself in and define yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's one of the things that I used when I first became public about being a medium is that I didn't have to box myself into what other people thought mediums do or
Hmm.
what they thought. I don't have to be, that's your box. I don't have to be in that box. Um, and then she just had the courage to experience what she wanted. So,
Yeah. I think something I struggled with too was the non-believers, right? So you have people who don't believe that any of this is real and it's all made up and it's all a hoax and it's all a scam. And honestly, I'm doing this work because I thought that for a long time. Um, and that's what led me here. But you have to be able to confront those people. And sometimes those people are people that you care about very much. And you're going to have that disagreement and you have to prepare yourself for that. But being able to be truthful with yourself is worth it. Being able to live your truth and be who you are is worth, to me anyway, it's worth maybe not having a close relationship with certain people. Because
yeah.
when I think about it, I have, you have your little circle of friends, and there's very little that those people can do that would make me not want to be their friend anymore, right?
Mhm.
Very, very little. The list is real short.
Right.
But I don't expect that from other people, and I should. I should expect, you know what? If this is who I want to be, you should accept me. And whether you believe it or not, love me anyway. But I think some people can't do that. I don't think some people are able to do that and get past their religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, whatever the case may be. Fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And I think that has to be okay.
Yeah, and you
I
got
feel
to
like
be okay with it.
because that happens in every context in our life. There are seasons where relationships transition to something different or relationships end or whatever. Um, and that just happens. That's a part of life. That's a part of the human experience. And so it's an experience you can't escape. So even if you try to lie to yourself and box yourself in and not be your authentic, vulnerable self, that doesn't mean they can't walk away from you for whatever the case may be. And
Mhm.
so, it happens. I also learned, and maybe you had this experience, I learned very quickly that I needed to live my authentic life. That didn't mean I needed to convince other people to um, follow the same path. And so while I love mediumship and I cannot even believe the amount of healing that happens for people in readings and it's just the best thing ever for me. If
Mhm.
it's not your vibe, that's fine and I don't try to convince others or teach other like if you're not into it, that's totally fine. And so part of coming out of that medium closet is also recognizing that it is not your job or obligation to bring other people along with you. And, that might mean some people are left behind, but that also means you'll find new community
Yep.
and new family when you are your real authentic. To be honest, you'll find real community. Because if you're
Right.
not being your authentic self, then you're not actually in relationship with these people anyway.
Yeah, you're
You're
right.
just cosplaying. So,
I had
like,
a yesterday I was supposed to do circle and at 2 o'clock and it ended up getting canceled. And I had just said the night before, I was like, I've got to make more time to meditate. I've got to make more time to get back. Because I talked to you about this on Tuesday. I was like,
yeah.
I've got to start getting back into the groove of things. That, things are starting to settle down. So anyway, the very next day, mediumship class gets canceled out of the blue. So now I have 2 hours, right, for free time. And I do my meditation. It's the first time I've like really meditated hard in a long time. I'm talking about probably 10, 12 months. Like it's been a long time since I've sat down in just a quiet space for a length of time. And I thought okay, I got to make it. I was just thinking, I was like, okay, I got to make it 10 minutes. I just got to do 10 minutes. And before I knew it, I was in such a deep meditation. I was back where I was 10 months ago immediately, which was great. It made me happy. But I tell you that to tell you this. I went and so my meditation, when I do my meditations, I visualize a lot because it keeps my brain focused. And I walk down my little path, I go to my little cabin and I open my door to my little cabin and there's a new guide there. And we had some conversation, but the important part is he walks me over. So when I go in the cabin, it's daytime, but when he walks me over to this huge window that's never been in my cabin before. And outside this window is the universe. There's millions and millions of stars and galaxies and, all over the place. And he says, every star is a path and every path has a different ending. Which path do you want? Which one do you want? And he's pointing to all these stars. And I said, well, I want the star that's going to bring me the most happiness. I want that path. I want the happy path. And he goes, well, that's the most difficult path. That path is the most difficult one to walk. He goes, you're going to have a lot of potholes on that path to get to the end. And I came out of that and I was like, I mean, other things were said, but by the time I came out of that, I was like, first of all, I would have never spoken like that. Second of all, what? It was crazy. Like that path that you're on to get to that happiness point, you're going to have to go through some trials and tribulations. You're going to have to hit some potholes to get to where you want to be. And some of that could be losing some of these relationships or having people look at you like you have three heads sometimes, or, whatever the case may be. But I loved that. I loved that that was what he showed me my first day back. It was pretty
I love
cool.
that. I love that. And also, why can't the happy path be the easy
I
path?
know. He said the anger path, the jealousy path, the sad path. He goes, those are the easy ones. Happiness is the difficult path. I thought,
That's
well,
interesting.
that kind of sucks. Why
It
can't
really
it?
makes sense though,
It makes
because
100% sense.
anger, jealousy, fear, those are all really familiar.
And
But
easy.
being happy it actually takes work to make your nervous system comfortable
Hmm.
with like happiness, especially somebody like me who's from Chicagoland. It's like, what do you mean?
Right. But those
That's so
potholes
cool.
can be speaking your truth and knowing
Yeah.
who you are and getting over,
Yeah.
I've just had some things in my life happen where I've hit a bunch of flipping potholes. And I'm on the other side of that now and things are going great now. But those potholes were tough there for a little bit. And I think it is leading me down a happier path. I hope so. At this point in my life, I'm like, my path is, I'm tired.
Yes.
I just need a smooth path just for a little bit.
Just for a little bit. Yeah.
For a minute.
That's so true.
Just for a minute, please. But that is really cool that she brought that information to you. And I can't wait to hear about all of the other people that have brought you great lessons and stories. And we're going to talk about those on several episodes of the podcast
Yeah.
coming up. So I can't wait to hear about that. We
I
always,
can.
for the listeners, just so they know, we have like we started this podcast and we have a plan, right? We have the schedule. These are the episodes we're going to do. I don't think we've stuck to it yet. We keep changing
Nope.
it because all these cool things keep coming up. And I really, really like being able to bring this information to you guys. You don't have to just speak to loved ones and friends. You can speak to whoever you want to speak to. There's a book. I don't know how you feel about Sylvia Brown, but I remember a long time ago, I'm thinking like 15 years ago, I was at a beach house and they had like the communal bookshelf had one of her books on there. And I picked it up and it was where she had connected with celebrities. And I thought, what? This lady's crazy. Like there's no way that she could do this. But the information she was bringing through was pretty interesting. And now that you can do it and like the stuff that you've told me, you haven't told me a ton because I don't want to hear it before the show, but the stuff that you have told me is absolutely incredible information. And like I said
I
earlier,
will say I have to give my spirit family members credit. They bring people to me a lot. So shout out to my great grandfather. My great grandfather is from Alabama. He's from Alabama, yeah. And so he actually had owned like a mountain in Alabama. He owned a
hmm,
Negro League baseball team for a little while. And on his land, he would host lots of famous Black athletes and entertainers because they could not
hmm.
stay, in town because of segregation. So people like Jackie Robinson were regulars at my great grandfather's home and his land because he provided a safe place for them to stay. And so he brings me people and they bring
And I think
people.
that's interesting too. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I know a lot of the people that you've mentioned to me that are coming up, not all of them, but a lot of them are African American people.
Yeah, but not
And
all.
do you think that's why? Is because your great grandfather is bringing them and he has
I mean,
connections?
some of them literally he's coming with
That's
them. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, so
That's what
in
I
that
mean. Like
sense,
he has those
yeah,
connections.
yeah, yeah. Um, he has a lot. My uncle has a lot. Particularly in civil rights spaces, but also like they bring people and other people bring people. I don't know. I think I'm just open to it and it just happens. So
That's
it's
so
like Grand
cool.
Central Station over here all the time.
I want
But
to
you'll
try it. I
you'll
want
find
to
out
just
some
sit
weird
down
stuff.
and do like a meditation and just try it. Like pick a person and then write down everything I get and see if I can go and verify it. But I need to pick a person I don't know much about, somebody from 100 years ago that I don't know a lot about.
So people do ask me, how do you know you're really with this person and it's
Hmm.
not, something you made up? So typically what will happen, I don't actually typically reach out for famous people. In fact, she is the only one that I actually have made the effort. Please come talk to me. And my mom is named after her. That's why I feel this deep connection to her. My
Oh,
my
how
mom's middle
nice.
name is Amelia. And so, other than that, they all just show up randomly. And so I'll start getting info. I have all the same information you have in a regular reading. It's through my clairs, but they will give me evidence and I'll go to Chat GPT and ask Chat GPT, is this true? And usually Chat will tell me. And it's always really specific things that no one has ever heard of, nothing you would ever find if you just Googled this person, like her prenup. Who's ever heard of that? Nobody.
Never.
And right? Like who's ever seen it? And so it'll be things like that. Like they'll show me something like that no one really knows about, but you can verify if you dig deep enough.
Hmm.
And so yeah, ChatGPT is like my sitter in in readings when famous people come through.
That's funny. Oh my goodness, that's really cool. I can't wait to hear about other ones as we continue to go through the podcast. Um,
Now my friends give me wish lists. They're like, "Hey, can you put this person? Because I would love to hear from them." And it
that's
happens.
really interesting. I So my feelings about celebrities are that they're no bit greater than anybody else. They're just louder. You know what I mean? Like they have the platform to speak where regular Joe Schmoes like you and I, we really don't have a huge platform like they do. And maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's why I shut them out because I'm like, who are you? Who are you to talk? You got nothing to say. But
I don't
apparently
think it's
they
the most
do.
common thing. I've asked, around. I don't think it's super common for mediums to get this kind. I think it started with my gramps,
Hmm.
and it's grown and grown and grown and grown. Um, it does happen though. Like it'll happen here and there for mediums, but for whatever reason, for me, it's a almost daily, almost every single day.
That's
Someone's
crazy.
hanging out here.
And you
Yep.
write them all down, or you just kind of sit in the moment?
I try to record. I record the ones that, like Miss Earhart is teaching me all kinds of things about life. So I recorded that message, and we'll have some clips of it on social media. Um, but others are just personally for me, like they're just coming to talk to me, and so you know, or they're
Wow,
giving them. I won't tell you this one, but sometimes they'll give me messages for friends.
that's really cool. That is really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So
Wow.
it's gotten to the point now where, like, people see mediums not just for making connections with loved ones, but also for more like psychic readings if they want clarity on, life stuff. So one kind of reading that I really love to do a lot are readings focused on career. And I don't call them psychic readings because a psychic reading means I'm just blending with your energy. But when I do a career reading, it's going to be that and whatever spirit, I will bring spirit communicators in. And so now they've started asking, thinking of which famous people they would love to have career advice from. And it has happened every time. Every
Wow.
time. It's so fun. Yeah. So,
That's so cool.
yeah. So your homework today, or your homework until the next episode, is to look in the mirror, be yourself, explore yourself. Don't box in and define yourself, but tell yourself the truth. Even if it's just in the mirror, if it's just in your own private space, you're going to be your most authentic, vulnerable self with yourself as the first step to walking through the world with power like Amelia Earhart. Yeah.
Guys, if you would like to reach out to Donya, you can go to her website. Donya, tell me what it is again.
My website is donyakemp.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook as Donya Kemp the Medium. You can find me on TikTok as Donya the Medium. You can
And she's going to
find,
post you're going to post some of the recording.
yep,
And
yep.
guys, I forgot to tell you this at the beginning. We're on YouTube now. So you can go in and you can go on YouTube and find us, make comments there. We'll respond to you. You can reach out to us at greaterthanghosts@gmail.com. You can reach me at greaterthanghosts@gmail, or you can go to Black Creek Paranormal Services at gmail.com. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.